I'm going to be talking to the lawyer, Drew Yewchuk, about a blog post he wrote yesterday that deals with the Alberta government's changes to asset liability for the oil sands and reclamation projects. And so welcome to the interview, Drew.
Thanks for having me again.
Now, look, this is a bit of a complex issue. We've already done one interview with Nina Lothian from Pembina Institute that sort of delved into the details. And for viewers, I'll put that link in the YouTube description. They can watch that as well. But if you could give us a brief overview of what the government actually did.
So the Mine Financial Security Program, or I'll call the MFSP, is meant to collect security for the cleanup of mines, both coal mines and oil sands mines. Primarily oil sands mines will be my focus because they have a larger liability issue and they're putting less security down under the system. But it calculates how much the future life of the mine is worth. And as long as it's worth 3 times more than the estimated liabilities, no new security is posted. So since the MFSP came into force in 2011, it has collected security for only one mine, I believe Joslyn North, because it's the only mine that was built after the system came in. It's collected no money from any of the other operators. And because of the low oil prices last year, the estimated future value in the calculation would have gone down enough that some of the operators, not even necessarily all of them, would have been posting security for the next 3 years. The Alberta government changed it so that they could use a future estimate based entirely on an estimate to avoid collecting any security. They presented this as a change to protect the integrity of the program, but it cuts against the point. It makes sure that no security is collected.
Now, one question I've always had, Drew, this particular system is founded on the idea that we'll punt liabilities down the road because we think these oil sands projects are going to be around for more than 20, 30 years. They have a long life. But now with changes that are taking place, energy transition changes, electrification of transportation, that's much less certain than it used to be. And I can foresee a future where oil prices drop and they don't come back, or they don't come back to the same effect. And basically now the government is hung out to dry because it doesn't have enough security. And if you did ask the companies for that security, then now they're not in a financial position to provide it. I mean, this strikes me as exceedingly risky.
Yes, it's beyond risky. It's designed like a trap that closes once the thing has left. It's too late. It was never a good system from the very outset. It's particularly bad now because, of course, rather than running out of resources, what's going to stop the oil sands is the transition away from carbon-intensive fuel. So the MFSP really does need to be replaced, and the government's promise to replace it would be encouraging, except that their first step has been to make sure not to collect any security this year.
Right, and I think you were very clear about in your blog post. In fact, you said that the MFSP changes were misguided, contrary to the recommendations of the Auditor General of a few years ago, and increased the risks to Albertans that they will eventually have to pay the 30 or 40 or $50 billion of reclamation costs that will come maybe 10, 20, 30 years down the road. That's very strong language.
Yeah, it's the Auditor General's report is a pretty interesting and straightforward read. It's well written, and it makes it clear the problem is that they are overestimating the future life of these mines. The Auditor General's report is from 2016. Alberta Environment and Parks sat on this for 5 years or 6 years since they first received this and didn't change the system at all. It does not look good.
Yeah, I guess we should point out, in fairness to the Kenney government, the Notley government didn't do anything either.
That's right, and has been stunning for a lot of people to look back at and wonder how so little, almost nothing, changed at the AER or Alberta Environment and Parks.
Well, let's talk about another comment you made that kind of caught my attention, which is the government, the Alberta government issued 2 press releases about these changes. and you called them misleading. And that's a fairly serious accusation.
Neither of the press releases makes it clear, definitely doesn't make it clear that the changes mean the companies will post less security. A person who is casually reading them would believe that the government is making sure to collect enough security to stay in line with the program. The only reason I knew was because I have previously done work on the MFSP, and so as soon as I saw that, I knew what low oil prices meant. I knew that it meant they would be posting security, not that they wouldn't be posting security. And without that, I think people who would have read this review or these press releases wouldn't have understood anything about what was going on at all.
Fair enough. So where do we go from here? I mean, I've often wondered why none of this ever gets challenged in court. And since you're a lawyer, I'll ask you, why is that?
I think Canada and Alberta don't have very strong or any public trust doctrines. So you need to have a specific law passed by the legislature, basically, before you can challenge it. And the law allows them to run a system that doesn't work. And so we can complain about it, but at this point, it's difficult to see what kind of legal action you could bring against them. They are within the lines of the program as developed.
Right. Well, Drew, interesting, fascinating insights into this issue, and it's not generating a lot of attention publicly yet. It certainly needs to. And we should point out that, if I remember correctly, you said there was about $1 to $1.5 billion of security posted at this point against $30 or $35 billion of liabilities. Have I got that correct?
It's a little bit less than $1 billion is collected, and the estimated liability is in the 30 billion range, and that is an estimate. And some of that is based on promises that technology that is being developed will work, and that is not at all certain. So the 30 billion could be a lower number than it should be.
Great. Thank you very much for this, Drew. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again.